So thanks so much for doing this, Chandler. It's great to see you. I feel like maybe I haven't seen you since before the pandemic. So congratulations on this awesome movie.
Thank you. I'm so glad we're both wearing hats.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm here in my video store appropriately. I figured I had to do the Q&A and Beyond Video. So
That's so cool. That's so
yeah.
cool.
Um, so this film, I mean, don't get me started on video stores, but before the film you mentioned that you had worked at a Blockbuster in the early 2000s, which kind of answered one of my questions. But I really wanted to kind of zoom in on the choice to like set it at more of a corporate video store, rather than sort of the hipster video stores that thrived in Toronto, in that same period. I guess part of the reason is autobiographical, but maybe I'm sure you must have wrestled a little bit with like what kind of video store is this, and exactly what era and what kind of group of employees do I want to populate it.
Yeah, I think it's really important to me that the video store he worked at was not cool in any way. And that, I think so much of like when you live in kind of as a teenager, you grow up in sort of a bland, amorphous suburb as you sort of have to romanticize like whatever's in front of you. And I think there's one indie movie called Good Dick, which is like set in a sort of hipster video store, I think in LA. And that's the only video store movie that I know about, other than, certain parts of Clerks. But I just think there's such a wonderful irony to someone who considers themselves like an incredible cinephile that is also, forced to have to settle DVDs kind of as like bundles and deals. And like, there's just something about that era of like Blockbuster, of like marketing cinema for mainstream culture, that I find really interesting. And it was kind of like the last bastion of accessible cinephilia, where it was like sort of mainstream but also corporate at the same time. And yeah, and I it was very important that like the video store he works at is not cool, and that he's alienated by his taste. I mean, they still have that one DVD of Happiness, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you also kind of pinpointed there something that I think you do very well tonally in the film, in that these are people who there's a pureness to it, but there's also that irony, right? I mean, they truly, he at least, Lawrence does really love movies, and even the most corporate video store or bookstore or record store can really be a magical portal to like a suburban kid who otherwise doesn't have culture in their life. I mean, I guess we have to pretend for young people in the audience that you don't have the internet, because growing up the internet really wasn't there for us in the way it is for y'all. But yeah, I mean, then again in the film, you sort of have an echoing in that tone where there is a lot of um, irony and dark comedy, and certainly Happiness and Welcome to Dollhouse came to mind a little bit watching it. But I also see other people describing it as heartwarming and a crowd pleaser. So tell me kind of how you orchestrated, both in the writing and then in the production, delivering all those tonal notes in a way that stays afloat.
Yeah, I think for me, the film was made for $225,000 with like all Canadian arts grants. And, I've been a critic my entire life. I'd never made a sort of personal film that I really felt like was my own personal independent tone of voice. And I think that's just like so much of that is just my own sensibility, like being like, okay, I love The Simpsons, but I also love like Michael Haneke, and like kind of squaring off those two things of like, Almost Famous and The Piano Teacher, where do they meet or something in the middle. And so I think also so much of it was just about casting this like amazing ensemble that really like imbued the film with the tone, like finding actors who really were the kind of comic spirit or essence of the movie that could convey that too. Because it's a really dangerous tightrope that he has to walk, Isaiah, who plays Lawrence. And, he kind of is the movie. And I think in the hands of a different kind of actor, like the movie just wouldn't work, wouldn't be funny, wouldn't be uncomfortable. It would just be like a totally different film. So I think just really working with actors who you feel like are the kind of extension of like the comic soul of the film helps a lot.
And he's a real star. He does an amazing job in the film. I know you had a really extensive casting process. Was there a moment where like something he did or some quality you noticed in his tape, because I think you were looking through tapes, that really popped for you?
Oh, I mean, I think it was every time I worked with him on Zoom in an audition, I was really blown away and surprised by him. Yeah, I remember doing like the dinner table scene as an audition, and yeah, and I remember him just like screaming, like, like, I'm gonna lose my job. And just the intensity of that, like, whereas everyone else was trying to kind of like be like, I'm gonna lose my job. Like, he just like played it like, things are always so much funnier if someone plays it completely like as high stakes and serious as possible. And I remember showing the audition tape to my mom of him, and she was like, and there was another actor who was really great, who was like the star of like a Disney movie that was kind of like a serious contender, who she was like, and she was like, don't cast Isaiah. And I was like, what do you mean? He's so great. And she's like, he's really great. He's gonna be a star, but he's too much like you in high school. It's gonna make people feel uncomfortable and freaked out. They're not gonna like it. And I was like, okay, I think he like just got the part. Like, I think that just like sealed the deal.
Was your main character, since this is somewhat autobiographical, was it a guy from the very beginning? Because I feel like there is something kind of broy and gendered about the kind of film championing that he does in the video store, that maybe only a guy could do, but also maybe I'm wrong about that.
Yeah, it was always going to be a young man. I just think that it's interesting, and I feel like more women should be telling stories about male characters. Like, there's kind of this interesting gap of representation where maybe women can see men at a different angle than they can see themselves. And I feel like I've seen this film, written and directed by men, several times. It's like almost every coming of age movie ever, and they don't really get called out or have consequences to their actions in the same way. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean the whole film, or his journey really coalesces when he sort of realizes that he's been all talk and someone else has been quietly doing and accomplishing. And
Yeah.
um, again, gender seems to really resonate there in that dynamic. But I think you handled it really beautifully. Um, Maybe you could talk a little bit, because you mentioned that you were a film journalist prior, and I guess a video store employee way back before that. I first met you when you're doing journalism. How, for people who are hoping to become filmmakers themselves, how did you maneuver that trajectory?
Oh boy. I
Mhm.
mean, I think this film took like the first half of my 30s to sort of do, from like the first draft to, its premiere at TIFF. So, if you're interested, just you got to be in it for the long haul. um but yeah, I think it was just kind of slowly, like, I made music videos and I did a short film, and I kind of like slowly but surely like kind of worked up the, I guess, gumption or I had to kind of give myself permission almost to do it, and to just be like, I don't care how low the amount of resources I have is, like, nothing's going to stop me from making a film that, feels personal to me, and then when and really finding like an incredible team of collaborators that would also, support me and bring so much to the project. Like, I think my producers, Lindsay Goldner and Evan Dubinsky, like, this was like a pretty daunting task. And then once the sort of third wave of the pandemic of it all happened, like, the fact that they were still like, no, we're not giving up. We're doing this. Like, we're with you all the way. Like, I think not only do you kind of need your own like personal desire, but you need like a real community of people that support you.
And it's been playing theatrically in Canada, right? Like
Yeah.
multi-platforms and all. Yeah.
Yeah. It played at the exact like movie theater that I used to watch movies at in high school, which was really exciting, in Burlington. So like that's where I saw like Mean Girls for the first time, and like Titanic. So that was pretty mind-blowing to me, to be in the same theater with the, 8 people that were there.
Well, I think, I don't know if I like movies is going to be someone's Titanic, but it could definitely be somebody's Mean Girls. So, it'll be like the Velvet Underground. Everyone who saw it, starts a band or makes
Yeah,
some.
that would, I mean, that's all I could hope for. That's a dream.
Um, since video stores are close to both of our hearts, you're still in Toronto? Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you still have a video store in your life? I know they're dwindling a bit up there too, but
There are still 2 really awesome video stores in Toronto, who gave us copious amounts of DVD cases for the movie.
that's great.
Eyesore Cinema, which is like an awesome kind of cult video store that, it's the kind of place you can go in and walk around on a Friday night and sort of feel like the kind of way that you did before. And then Bay Street Video, which is like this amazing treasure trove of DVDs and foreign cinema. Like they have an incredible collection of films to buy. So yeah, I don't have a DVD player though.
Well, you know, you're inspiring others too. So there you
Yeah.
go. Well, listen, thank you so much for doing this, and congratulations on the film. For people who love it, you know, can you point them to some of your other work or other ways to support this film?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I don't know. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers that I receive even more money from the Canadian government to make you know, movies about narcissists that are obsessed with popular culture that need a deep human reckoning. I don't know. I made a short film in 2017 called We Forgot to Break Up that's on Vimeo. It's a Vimeo staff pick that yeah, I was at the Maryland Film Festival a couple of years ago and TIFF and South by Southwest. Yeah, and then other than that, I'm just kind of like gearing up hopefully for my next project if I'm lucky enough to do so.
Well, I really hope so, because you're really onto something. So
Oh,
congratulations on this
thank
body of
you.
work, and this first feature is really awesome.
That's so kind, and thanks for, you know, thanks to the festival for programming it and for I'm really excited to hear what people think.